Hello, welcome to the next stage in our learning how to do Docker security. Now, we are still on white belt where we are setting the lab. Now, the first major operating system we want to install is the Kali Linux. So, this is what we want to install first. We won't digress too much into what the other portions of this infected lab are, but in this video, what we are going to do is install Kali Linux so that we can com complete some of the other parts of white belt, which is setting up the lab. So let's get into it. Now here, as you can see, I'm not using VirtualBox. I'm using what is known as EXSXi, excuse me. Now, I've installed this program. This program is a virtual machine which will hold lots of images. So I will show you as I proceed with Kali Linux. So I've logged into my server using root and then the password. So we'll log in and I will show you how I've managed to configure this. If you don't have ESXi, you can use the VirtualBox. So you could use an application called VirtualBox. There's another one called Workstation. Let's spell it properly. So it's Workstation. Now, this one here, you could use it for free, so you don't need to pay. Workstation, I think it's called VM Player, is also for free for you to use. So there's lots of videos which you could use in following how to install and run your application. But in my case, I'm using this application ESXi to install. So enough of that. Let's go into the practical side. So I'll log in here. Now, as you can see, the the panel here, this is the dashboard. So you will notice that I've got one machine already. This comes with also switches inside for you to use because this is a commercial product. As you can see here, there is lots of memory, including the storage. So what we are going to do is go here to create our virtual machine. And these are the details of this computer I'm using here. So the first thing we need to do is go onto virtual machines. Now on this virtual machine here, I'll first we'll use this to create the first machine. There's another machine which I've created. That's why here it says one already. So we'll create another one so that here we should have two as two machines. So here I'll click create. As you can see from here, we are creating a new virtual machine and we are going to follow these steps. So I'll click next, then I'll give it a name. Now the Kali Linux we are going to use, I'll just name it here, Kali Linux. Let's give it a number in case we might need to do several of them. So this is one. Now 6.5 as this product. So if you can see on top here, so I'll leave it as it is. The guest family we know is a Linux. The guest operating system version, let's go, is a Debian. So we just choose the nearest, which is a 64-bit. Then we'll click next. Now the hard drive I'm going to use on the host machine, I'll just choose the first one here and go next. Now the other thing here which I need to make you aware of, so we have got the virtual hard disk, hardware I mean, and also some options. So because we are creating a machine, so if you can think of a rather desktop, let's assume this is a desktop, you would have a hard drive in it, you have memory. So we have got lots of peripherals inside in here in the real hardware. But this is because we are doing virtualization, it still represents the same. Hence, we have got a CPU, which is the processing unit, and this one, but we need to change it to two processing units. The memory, which is in megabytes, we want to increase it to 2024. So this will be 2 gigabytes. The hard drive, which is 16, we want to have 100 gigabytes. The SCADA controller will leave it as it is. We are using USB 2. That will go along with a USB 2, and the virtual network will leave it as it is, so that it connects the one which is already previous done in there. Now the CD, this is where we have download from Kali downloads. So we are using this website. We have gone to this website of Kali Linux and download Kali Linux, which is the one 2019 we are using, and I've installed it in one of the hard drive on the host computer so that we can pin this CD DVD to the Kali Linux so that it boots together with this. The video card, we are going to leave it as it is. So let's put the changes first in place. So as I mentioned, this I'll just choose 2. Then here I'll just put 2. So this is 2 gigabytes. So if I go GB here, we need to refresh this, but let's leave it at megabytes. Then here we'll just put 100 gigabytes. We'll leave everything as it is, including the virtual machine network. Then the host device. So we'll click here and we are going to data store ISO image. So it's the ISO image which we want, and the image is in here curly. Then we just highlight that. Then we are going to do select. So we have selected that we want to boot to that ISO image. Now if we go in the virtual options, here we could change some of the other things like installing the guest tools, and we can also power here. So on the virtual tools, the scripts we want it to run, and also we want to check this that the tools are upgraded. Now we can also in sync the time, but it's not relevant at this point in time. So let's click next. So as you can see from here, we have changed the name. Thus, we have put the first hard drive to boot, and the memory is 2 gigabytes, even though here it says 2024 megabytes. The CPU is 2, and you can see that the hard drive here has changed to 100. So we proceed to click finish. So as you can see from here, we we haven't used any space yet, because this is just a brand new virtual machine. And at the bottom here, we have logged in successful. So what we do here is just highlight the Kali Linux. So I will show you some of the other things. So we'll use the power button here to power this machine. The memory, as you can see from here, is 2 gigabytes. So it says 1.98 to CPU, and that's the version of EXI we are using, and the Debian we are using is 64-bit. We haven't used any memory yet. At the minute, there is 2.02 kilobytes, which has been created in the 100 gigabytes storage we have told it to do. So we haven't used any CPU at the minute. So other details, as you can see, we can actually put the notes here. So like the username we want and the user we want. So all those details you can put it in there. And as you can see from here, as I already mentioned, two core CPU will be using. The memory is 2 gigabytes, 100 the hard disk. We are using USB version 2, and the VM is already connected. The video card is using 4 megabytes out of the memory here, and the DVD we are using is the Kali Linux, which is the 64-bit. So with that, we are ready to start installing the Kali Linux. So here I will power on the machine. Now, as you can see from here, this is the terminal. Let's see if we can go into full screen. So that's the console we are using. Uh, So here, for us to enlarge this window, I've gone console. Let's open it in a new browser. Now, as you can see, the window is a little bit bigger. Let's size it. So this is the console we will be using to install Kali Linux. So several things before we start. We can run or test rather Kali Linux using the live. We can also use Kali Linux for forensic or sometimes in a USB. But the one we are going to use, we'll just use this graphical install. So let's do that. So here I'm using the keyboard keys. So Kali Linux is booting here. Now, as you can see from here, we have got a decent window to work with. So here, what we'll choose English, we'll go continue. Then we want United Kingdom, so we'll continue. The keyboard here is still British English. So here is the Kali Linux installation is trying to find out if we have got the network card. So it's dictating the network card. So we had successful connection there for the network card. Now this is where we are going to give Kali a different name to use. So the one we are going to go for, we are going to call it, let's call it a fancy name. So we'll just call it Ghost version 1. Then we are going to continue. Now the domain we are going to put, we are going to call it infected.com. Then we'll click continue. Now it's asking us to put the root user, which is the super user password. So I'll put the super user password here. Now we'll go continue. So as you can see, it's learning a little bit faster because it's on a server learning about 16 gigabits. So here we are going to use the entire disk, but I'm going to do the partition of the hard drive using manual. So you might wonder what is a partition. So I'll quickly get my pen here and demonstrate what we are trying to do here. So imagine we have got this box here, or this hard drive. Now this hard drive, when we install, is 100 gigabytes. So partitioning, what we are doing is just chopping off this 100 um, hard drive in two parts. So I always do three parts. So that will be one and another one here. That's how we are going to partition the hard drive. So the first partition here will be the boot partition. The next one will be swap partition, and the last one will just be root. Now the boot partition is which we are going to use for booting up this operating system. The swap is the virtual memory, so we know that the memory is 2 gigabytes. Now the rule of thumb for swap partition, it should double this, which is 4, but instead of 4, let's put 5 as our hard drive memory, which we are going to declare here. The root partition always is denoted by just a slash. So all the files we get, so in Linux, imagine that there's a tree which is roots. So those will be uh, branches. So it's an upside down tree. So this upside down tree, that's the roots. So we start the roots which is on top. Then you have got branches. So you could have a branch called Etsy. Then you have another one called options. Then you have some which are called div. So there's lots of branches for Linux. So always think of file system for Linux as a tree which is upside down. So this we start from the root, which is denoted by just a slash, then the other files in there. I hope this is making sense, or you can see where we are going now. So let's configure the partitions. So to do that, we'll click manual, then we can go continue here. This is the hard drive we are going to use. So it's listed as 107.4. Then we are going to continue. So at the moment it's empty. So we want to create a new partition. So we'll say yes. Then we'll click continue. This is the hard drive with free space. So we are going to highlight it and then we'll click continue. Now here it says create a new partition. Yeah, we accept that by going continue. Now as you can see from here, it has selected the hard drive, the whole hard drive space. So we are going to remove that. Instead, we are just going to put one as 1 gigabit we want for partition. Then we click continue. Here I'm going to choose primary partition, and I want it to be at the beginning of the hard drive. So we have created with the for journaling system. Now here I don't want it to be a root because that's a root. I want to change here to boot. So I've chose the boot partition, and then I'm going to give it a label. So this will be, so in continuing with our scheme of naming it, we'll just call it uh, swamp, then boot. You can put any name you want on there. Now we want the bootable flag to be on, so we just double click that. As you can see, is on now. Then we just double click uh, done setting up the partition. So that partition now is done and is in megabytes, which is 999.3 megabytes, and B for booting. So we'll go to the list of the hard drive here. So we'll highlight it and go continue. We want to create another new partition, which will be the swap space. So we set the swap space, we want it 5. So we'll put 5 gigabits. Then we'll click continue. We don't want it logic, we want it primary. Then we want it to be at the end of the hard drive. Then here to change it, we are going to go into here. We'll double click there and choose swap area. And then we'll click here, done setting up the partition. So you can see it's at the end and it's 5.0 as the swap space. So the rest of the remaining hard drive will just bundle everything into there. So we highlight that, then we'll go continue, and then we'll continue to create. So we'll leave it as it is. Then we are going to highlight it should be primary partition. So here the mounting point, that's correct because that's the root we want. The label here, we are going to be also more creative. So when we see Savannah, we know that that's the main boot partition. And here we'll click done setting up the partition. So the other important thing which I need to make you aware is when we do finish partition and write changes to the disk, the computer represent the partitions of the disk in a different context. So let's get a pen here. Now, what you will notice is there's SDA, which is this one, which is being pointed here. So all the hard drive, they will have this naming convention SDA. When you have another addition, let's say hard drive connected to this computer, it will now be referred to as SDA, maybe to go 1. So make sure that you notice that there is SDA as part of the partition when you are reading, so that you know it's talking to the hard drive. When we are going to install towards the end, it will ask us where to install, and we have to make sure that we remember this, because this is where we need to install the actual boot file and the rest of it, which is called uh, grub. I think that's the spelling. So here we'll accept that we need to write the changes and we click continue. So it will take some time. I'll just pause it so that it's a little bit quicker for you. So here, as you can see, is copying everything on the ISO image into the system. And continuing here is asking us if we are going to be using a network mirror. So the network mirror is part of the repository, as you can see here, packet manager, so that we install some of the other drive. So we are going to accept that yes, and we are going to click continue. And we are not using a proxy as we are getting in and out to where the repository is. So we just accept it as it is and we just go continue. So as you can see from here, we are installing the grub bootloader. So when the operating system starts booting up, it uses the grub bootloader to install. Now the install of the um, grub bootloader to the master boot record is done. So we are going to accept that yes, and we'll click continue. Now remember what I mentioned. I mentioned that the hard drive is listed as SDA. So we can boot from the grab in a USB depending the scenario, but in this scenario we'll highlight that we want it to boot from SDA. So we'll click continue. So it's installing the finishing installation of the grab bootloader, and in a minute it will reboot itself. Then we go in and everything is installed. Now here you can see the results. It has finished installation. Now we just go continue. So it has finished the installation, is booting. There we have it. So all we need to do here is to log in. So let's wait for it to boot up properly. There we have it. So it will give us a window to log in. So there we are. So here the user is always root. So we have changed already the password of the root. So we'll put the name, the password rather, for the root user. Then we'll log in. So as you can see from here, that's the dashboard rather of Kali Linux. So if we go here, so let me label it first. Let's take a little bit thicker pen. So here is for all the programs. So this is for all the programs. Now the whole file system which I was telling you about, think of the tree with branches upside down. This is the file system. Now this file system, one of the branches is all called home. Every user in Kali Linux will have a home. which is this folder here. So this is the home for the user root, who is the super user. Now this is called the terminal, or I think it's called TTY, teleterminal. Sometimes it's called. It will allow us to put all the commands we need, and we can move very quickly by utilizing the terminal. So we'll click that, then we'll use that. This portion here, we could call it the file menu. So in the file menu, this is for power. If we want to power off or on, that's the button we use. The second one is a lock, for locking the computer if we are not using it. And the third one here is where we can view the Wi-Fi status and also be able to connect to other Wi-Fi. The other thing also we'll get using this is our system panel. In Windows, it could be the same as where you get all the details of what application you have installed and all that. So this is where we will do some post configuration for power. We are going to set it to never, so that whilst we are using it, doesn't switch off. So this will be never. And as it says here, that's for the time, but this one here shows the connection type. So this is the actual cable as it shows from here, and this one is the sound. So that's in general the components and parts of Kali Linux. So before we go to look at the tools here, let's change the power settings first. So what we will do here is we go to the power management settings. So we have got the appearance and the status. So go to system. Here the suspense is never already. So let's look at the display here. So for the power of display, we are going to put never for putting it to sleep, and also never for that. Then we can just switch off the display power. So here delay locking after the screensaver for 5 seconds. So what we will do here is uncheck that and go in here and just put never. Then we are going to go into the device. So here is already plugged and is online. Then we are going to do close. So that one is set. The next thing we are going to do is change the background here. There's so many ways of changing it, but for now what we are going to do is looking for where we can change the desktop. So it's in desktop settings. So we have got different backgrounds. So we just choose this black one here. And we just cancel there. So that is done. Then we are moving on into the terminal. So in the terminal window here, we just want to enlarge the font. So in enlarging the font here, let's go change. Uh, let's put 14 and click OK. Let's see if we have managed to change that. We haven't changed it because either the preference we have changed is a different place, so it has gone back to 10. So let's see if we put 14 again, then we click OK, which is the one we want there. Instead of cancelling it, because the window now is a little bit small. Let's see if we can drag it to see the bottom here. So let's do close. Still we can be able to increase the font here. We'll try other means. So what is happening is we can go in the preference. We are required to change the font there, and we have selected what font we want and we have clicked OK. Then we are doing cancel here. As you can see, we are not changing that, which I believe if you click in here you get another preference, and if we change this one and click OK and exit there, is still not changing. So what we want to do here is to make sure that we have got the connectivity. So we are going to ping Google. which is on 8.8.8.8. And when we press enter, it says invalid argument. Where we have gone wrong is we haven't specified how many pings we need to send. So I've put 2. So as you can see from there, we are able to ping. The next thing what we need to do every time you open Kali Linux is to update your system. So to do that, we'll do update, then we'll press enter. Then we are going to do apt full upgrade, and then we'll put tag as the Americans say, and Y for yes. Then it's going to install all the updates. Now this is where the theory of Kali being a rolling up is shown, because what it needs to, the Kali Linux will do is update the system. Most of the time it will take a long time for it to update, especially if it is new. So we'll leave it running whilst we are updating. The other thing whilst it's updating, I'll show you is the programs area here. So if I click programs, as you can see from here, we have got information gathering tools. Then we have got vulnerability assessment tools, web application. So instead of just reading all of them, you can go and look at them. So if we do information gathering, then you can see from here what other applications are out there which we can use as we are going. So the other one we could use is NetDiscover and also Nmap. Sparta will use it at also at some time. So the tools you could get here is about 360 tools which you can use for different uses in the engagement. So I'll leave it running and I'll end this video here because we have installed everything we wanted, and here is just remaining to update. So I thank you for viewing.